Hey guys, TekGeekHD here again with another video, and today I have my full unboxing and review of the brand new 6th generation iPod Touch. Now, the iPod Touch was one of my first Apple devices ever, and this latest iteration is something of a little bit of a delayed release. Apple actually released the 5th generation iPod Touch almost 3 years ago, so this update actually rolled out very subtly. There was no announcement or anything like that, just a couple days ago, so I decided to pick one up and make a couple videos for you guys, so let's get started. Now, first off, let's actually unbox the thing and see what we get inside of the box. So picking up the box here, as you guys can see, the packaging is exactly the same as what the 5th generation's was. At the bottom we have a little bit of information, iPod Touch on both sides, as well as an Apple logo on the top. And of course it is in this clear acrylic case so that you guys can see what color of the iPod Touch you're picking up. Now this is actually pretty important because Apple did release a couple new interesting colors, including this updated space gray. Now I will actually be talking about this in my comparison with the iPhone 6 that will be coming up in a couple days, but for now let's open up the box. The first thing on the inside is a quick start guide, then you have a lightning cable and your Apple EarPods, which are very expected. Now ripping the iPod out of its little casing, the first very apparent thing you can notice is how insanely light this thing is. It barely weighs anything. Also, the new space gray color really stood out to me, and this is actually going to be probably one of the differentiating factors between the iPhone 6 and the iPhone 6s when it comes out later this year. Now the device here, as you guys can see, unfortunately has not been updated in terms of screen size. It is still a 4-inch screen. Now that being said, it's a pretty high resolution screen at 326 pixels per inch, though it isn't actually 720p. It's actually 1136 by 640. So some people might say that, you know, there are definitely better screens available, but keeping in mind this is a $200 device aimed at really just preteens who are not allowed to have a phone or something of that sort, I think that it's pretty decent. Now one of the things that I wish Apple could have done is, even because this phone, or this iPod rather, as you guys can tell, it isn't really a phone, is push battery life limits a little bit. Since it is using a smaller display, it doesn't necessarily need to have the lower battery life that was associated with the 5th generation iPod Touch. That being said, it is a pretty quick device, and that is due to the brand new Apple A8 processor inside of this. It also does come with the M8 coprocessor. I think these were both first seen in late 2014 on the iPhone 6, so it actually does have the new processor, which makes it very quick, and hands down I can tell you guys that this is definitely a very quick device. It has absolutely no lag, and this is probably the best iPod Touch experience that you guys can get. Web pages load pretty quickly, and now as you guys can see here, I am on YouTube. One of the other things that stood out to me, especially after using the iPhone 6 for about 9 months now, is the fact that the keyboard seems extremely small, and for somebody like me who has pretty large hands, the 4-inch form factor is definitely very small, and it's not something that I could continue to use on a day-to-day basis. That being said, for the people who this iPod Touch is aimed at, I think that this should be a relatively good size, especially if you guys just want to browse the web and watch some videos, and as well as play some games. Now this actually does ship with iOS 8.4 pre-installed, and this is the 16GB version, which actually gives you really just a usable 11 gigabytes of storage. Now here's where I think that the biggest updates happened after the processor, of course, and that is the camera. The iPod Touch features an all-new 8-megapixel iSight camera. Now this definitely brings it up all the way to the likes of the iPhone 5s and the iPhone 6. It has an f2.4 aperture, so it takes in a really nice amount of light. The pictures are very crisp and clear. As you guys can see here, I'm just walking around. I was shaking a little bit, and the software stabilization, the digital stabilization, of course it's not optical in here, it actually does do a pretty decent job. Now it also does take panoramas, of course, and that's one of my favorite features, and it always has been on the iPhone. But here's another major difference between this and the iPhone. The iPod Touch does not come with Touch ID. Now this could be a major drawback, since Apple has really been trying to push Touch ID on its newer devices. The new iPads have it, and I was very surprised to see it missing from the iPod, especially since the iPod, this is probably going to be the last iteration that we're all going to see, which I think is pretty sad because I really love the iPod Touch, but I can understand why they did it. That being said, I don't understand why they kept Touch ID off of this device, because I think it could have been a really good way to push the feature that they have been trying to do for quite a while. Now, in terms of gaming, which is actually going to be probably where this iPod is going to be used quite a bit with teens or preteens who are going to be gaming, this actually handles it quite like a boss. I don't really know how else to describe it. It's very difficult for me to say anything else. Now this is Leo's Fortune here. I absolutely love playing this game on my iPhone, and it is a very graphically intensive game. There's a lot of rendering that needs to be done, a lot of 3D surfaces, and very quick movements, and the iPod Touch handles it really well. I was very surprised to see this because I remember that the iPod Touch 5th generation used to have quite a few problems with this, because the first time I played this game was on my cousin's iPod Touch 5th generation. She has now, of course, graduated to the iPhone 6. That being said, I think that the iPod Touch 6th generation is definitely a really great device in today's day to be able to buy for somebody who is not allowed to have a phone or something of that sort. Now, would I recommend this over, let's say, getting a phone? It really depends on what phone it is. If you have an iPhone 5C or above, I think I would definitely skip this. There's really no reason to get the iPod Touch. But for someone looking to buy a device that has all the features of iOS and get into the Apple game without having a phone, the iPod Touch is a really good way to go. Anyway guys, that about does it for this video. If you liked it, do remember to leave a like rating. If you would like to subscribe to see more videos, there is a little subscribe button right underneath this video. And of course, I really hope that you guys have a great day, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Thanks for watching. Peace.